Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson. We're continuing our study of the book of Lamentations, and we're in chapter 2. We're going to read verses 14 through 22 and finish this second acrostic section. And this begins with the false prophets who had preyed upon them. Of course, the false prophets said the things they wanted to hear, told them lies that they were happy to believe, and of course they paid the price for that. And it is this which will be the starting point and really the topic of what we're going to be reading today. It will have some horrific connections to what the Assyrians did to the northern kingdom 140 years before, and I think we're going to see some language that will be reminding us of what David wrote in Psalm 22. And so let's keep our ears open as we finish chapter 2. Your prophets have seen for you false and foolish visions, and they have not exposed your iniquity so as to restore you from captivity, but they have seen for you false and misleading oracles. They were not honest about who you were. I just love that line. They have not exposed your iniquity so as to restore you from captivity. If they were honest about your sin and held a mirror up to your sin, they would be doing you a favor and bringing you restoration. But no, they didn't. They kept telling lies. All who pass along the way clap their hands at you. They hiss and shake their heads at the daughter of Jerusalem. Is this the city of which they said the perfection of beauty, a joy to all the earth? All your enemies have opened their mouths wide against you. They hiss and gnash their teeth. They say, "We have swallowed her up. Surely this is the day for which we have waited. We have reached it. We have seen it. Yahweh has done what he purposed. He has accomplished his word, which he commanded from the days of old. He has thrown down without sparing, and he has caused the enemy to rejoice over you. He has exalted the might of your enemies. Their heart cried out to the Lord, O wall of the daughter of Zion, let your tears run down like a river day and night. Give yourself no release. Let your eyes have no rest. Arise, cry aloud in the night. At the beginning of the night watches, pour out your heart like water before the presence of the Lord. Lift up your hands to him for the life of your little ones, who are faint because of hunger. At the head of every street, see, O Lord, and look, with whom thou hast dealt thus. Should women eat their own offspring, the little ones who were born healthy? Should priest and prophet be slain? In the sanctuary of the Lord, on the ground in the streets lie young and old. My virgins and my young men have fallen by the sword. You have slain them in the day of your anger. You have slaughtered, not sparing. You call as in the day of an appointed feast. My terrors on every side, and there was no one who escaped or survived in the day of the Lord's anger. Those whom I bore and reared, my enemy annihilated them. This is a tough passage. He's tried to, in the last section that we read at the beginning of chapter 2, he wanted to be able to comfort them, was trying to comfort them, but he has really no comfort to give because he has no comfort, at least at this point, in himself, because God's judgment, which is justified, is so extreme. Anyway, he talks about the fact that the children themselves will be the ultimate victims of what has happened. What has happened. He does say in verse 17, God did exactly what he's wanted to do. He has accomplished his word. God tells us exactly the way things are, not like the false prophets who will not hold a mirror up and say, this is reality. God is always forthright. God tells us the way things are. He tells us the way we are. He tells us what will happen if we proceed down certain courses. He tells us what he will do. And then he keeps all of those promises. He does exactly what he says, and he accomplishes all of his purposes. His will is immutable, and this has been his will, and it is a will that will restore them, and that's clearly expressed early on. If once your iniquity is exposed, then you can be restored, and that's what this judgment does. It exposes the depth of their iniquity and reminds them that what God says is true. Um, but here, the prophet himself is about to reach his level, his limit of despair, which he will reach in the next chapter, the next round of acrostics when we get to chapter 3. But here, the it's the children who are really paying the price. I think a lot of the imagery reminds us of Psalm 22, especially the way that they are being ridiculed by their enemies, people who have long thought, man, I hope the day comes when I can gloat over their defeat. That's just celebrating the joys of Schadenfreude over God's people. And Psalm 22 very much contains those very derisions aimed at the Messiah. And so there's a connection there. Um, also, he mentions in verse 20, should women eat their offspring, little ones who were born healthy? Now, there's a precedent for this happening in the siege of Samaria by the Assyrians, and we're told about this in 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 29, that women were actually eating their children, or at least eating each other's children, and 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 cooperating in eating children. It's it's just about the most. At least one of the two or three most revolting things that Scripture records concerning God's people, but it's there, um, and evidently it happened not just in the northern kingdom, but in the southern kingdom, and the prophet is holding all these things up. Yes, you are right. Yes, they are sinners. Yes, these consequences are necessary. But will you please just stop for a minute and look and see what's happening? Can't this stop? And and that's really the tone he is taking. We're going to enter chapter 3 next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.